Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name's Joe Kuzma, and I am joined today by a host who doesn't like something that we're not permitted to talk about ever at any point. So say hello to a one host, it shall never be spoken of, Brian E. Roach. What's up, Brian?
Maybe I just need to come up with something else that I don't like, because there's plenty in the world that I don't like, that it doesn't rhyme with host. Maybe then maybe it won't be so aggravating. Like I could be the host that doesn't like rain.
Dislikes, or the host that yells at clouds.
Well, I actually tend not to yell at clouds. I yell at the world. So,
hey, let me ask you something. We'll get off topic for a second, like we always do. When I moved recently, the traffic's not as bad as my old hometown. But man, I'll tell you, people are just idiots when it comes to vehicles, and particularly. This may strike someone as odd, but I tend to find certain types of vehicles. I don't want to stereotype any of our audience because they're going to say, wait, that's me. It's like, but there's one in particular the other day. It was like one of these things, like if you're on my bumper, or if you're on my butt, I'm going to drive even slower. I'm like, what kind of sense does that ever make? I'm like, these people must have like an inordinate amount of free time to just be able to go wherever they want as they please and not have to be anywhere in a rush or on a deadline or anything of that. You don't even necessarily have to be in a rush. You leave on time, but then they make you not on time. I just don't get it. The other thing too is what I'm asking about is road rage. We're talking about things we don't like. It's when there's like a traffic accident or a cop or somebody has somebody pulled over on the side of the road. Everyone has to stop and stare. And it's like, just mind your own business and keep driving. You know what I mean?
Yes, I absolutely do know what you mean. Let me first state that the individuals that you are talking about who choose to go at whatever speed they want to go, and don't want to be forced to go any faster, I have no problem with that, provided you do one thing. Stay the bleepity bleep bleep out of the fast lane, and then you're fine. But if you get in the fast lane and you start to go slow and you don't get over when a car comes up behind you, then I think that we should be allowed to have rocket launchers attached to our vehicles so we can blow you the bleep up. Because get the hell out of my way.
Well, there's another scenario too is when you go down a residential road, and you have cars who park in the street despite having a double drive and a double car garage. There's still people parked in the street. And I understand if you're Phillip Rivers and you have 9 kids and they're starting to drive, where else are you going to put the cars? Of course, Phillip Rivers is a millionaire and he probably has like a whole ranch or whatever that his whole platoon is on.
Yeah,
so,
I don't think you got to worry about Phillip Rivers parking on the street.
But I'm worried about the guy who's the fan of Phillip Rivers, who also has 9 kids and just works, the 9 to 5. So you get the car. What I'm saying is like it's reduced to a single lane, and then you have to pull over and let the next car come through, and it's like a jigsaw puzzle. I want a monster truck, not a rocket launcher, and I just want to go boom over everything.
Just go over everything.
Yes, exactly.
But I'll tell you, here's the one that really gets me, right? The folks who decide at the last second that it's time to exit. You've seen the exit signs on the highway coming up for the last 4 miles. You've seen the line of traffic waiting to get off, but you can't be bothered to get the heck over. Instead, you wait until you get all the way up to the exit and then try and cut in out of a lane that's like the middle lane of the highway, so that you're now blocking multiple lanes of traffic. I'm sorry, that should be a death sentence penalty. No tickets, no fines. You should just be killed, or your driver's license should be immediately revoked because you're too stupid to drive.
Yeah, well, some people do that intentionally to skip the whole line and get in front of the bad drivers who are standing there sleeping like they do when you wait through a 5-minute light cycle, and then they don't go when it's green, and it's like, hey, there's a science to traffic. X amount of cars can get through, provided In theory, everybody should be able to hit the gas pedal at the same time when it turns green, and nobody hits each other, and everybody goes through. Like, it never works that way. But I digress.
We do, and I'm sorry for everyone who thought they were logging into and listening to SCU and got RRA, Road Rage Anonymous.
Yeah. But I'm thinking
we'll try and go back to our regularly scheduled program now, I guess.
Yes, and later on, join us for an encore presentation of breakfast food items that we do not like. So it's just, we're not the only ones who do this. You know what? I listen to the fantasy radio guys a lot on Sirius XM. And man, they got on like McDonald's breakfast food or something, or McNuggets or something the other day. And I was just like, really? And then I was like, wait a minute, me and Brian do that too. Never mind. I can't throw stones when I live in a glass house. We got a football game coming up, man. Still,
we do.
The Steelers, that is, but still no fans in the stands. That includes Mama and Papa Watt, who, there's a little special Watt Bowl going on this Sunday in Pittsburgh as the Steelers face the Houston Texans, and for the second time ever in NFL history, or I guess since 1930. Maybe this was a lot more prevalent in the early 100 years of the NFL, Brian, but three brothers playing in the same game, and this is the second time this is happening because it happened last year when the Steelers played the Bills, because there are two Edmonds brothers, and the third, of course, Tremaine, who got credit instead of Terrell. Or Terrell. I don't know if it's Terrell or Terrell now that I keep thinking about this, but I'll call him Terrell. Don't call me Veronica. Anyways, Terrell Edmonds was called Tremaine in one of these publications that the NFL put out for the preview guide, which is funny. They keep getting them wrong. They called him they called Trey Terrell or one way or the other last year too when Trey had made the play. It's funny, but this is the second time this is now happening with TJ and JJ and DJ. Sorry, I'm not calling you Derek. Watt. So there's a trio of Watts that are here playing this Sunday, and Steelers fans have like this just goofy fascination with wanting JJ on the roster. So I'm going to just go to this first. He's older. He's around the same age as Cam Hayward. I'm already seeing people that are complaining about giving Cam Hayward an extension. Like, are you kidding me? You want to? They're talking about like trading for JJ, which how are you going to fit this guy under the cap as it is? And we said this like months ago on one of the programs. We put not only his health and availability up, but we also talked about how you have Hayward into it, you have Dupree, and then JJ's brother TJ, and that's the Steelers are getting pressure with front four, not even like a front five. That's like their front four practically. It's just not. I don't see where JJ fits in to that. He's not really an outside linebacker. He's a traditional 4-3 defensive end. He's a little bigger than TJ is. And on top of that, who are you taking off the field? You're taking Hayward or Tuitt? And how much money are you investing with guys that are sitting on the sideline? I mean, the Steelers are quite fortunate as it is to rotate the number of bodies that they do. And there was some talk about that. I guess like 18 guys got on the field on defense, and they're going to play this, that, and the other thing. But we were also talking about how long some of these drives were in real time last week with the Denver Broncos game. Denver controlled time of possession, and they were on the field just too much. And most people aren't realizing this, and this could even be worse. What you don't realize is when you go to Heinz Field in September, maybe even early October, the sun radiates. And particularly off of those like gold seats that they have, you get sunburn. It's like 78 degrees outside, but you walk out of there and you feel charred. You look like a lobster. The heat is still kind of a thing. There's still a little bit of humidity and whatnot. It's a very odd time of year as things are changing. And you got guys who still aren't quite up to snuff when it comes to being in football condition. So you're going to play a lot of bodies. But my main point is that if you have a guy who is like a former defensive league MVP and you're going to bring him in, who are you bumping off the roster for him? Because it's not only going to be Hayward or Tuitt, it's going to be some other guys in order to fit them in there. So, folks, please just stop with the nonsense. JJ, I'm sure he would love to play with his brothers. He's got his own thing going on. The city of Houston loves him. Look at all the things he's involved with, hurricane relief and everything he does there. He's not going anytime soon. That's his town right now. He's going to be pretty much immortalized as a Houston Texan for the rest of his career, right? Just the same way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just the same way as, we would think of Jerome Bettis as a Steeler and not like his earlier years with the Rams or anything like that, or even Rod Woodson or somebody like that for that matter. So I just don't get the nonsensical fascination with that. I'm going to get to the other Watt here in a second, being Derek. But have you seen any crazy stuff like that too, Brian? Because I'm always seeing people say, trade for this guy or trade Terrell Edmonds and some cash and they could have got Jamal Adams. I may have mentioned that on the last one. I'm just like, please just stop. Just stop. It's nonsense.
Yeah, the Steelers don't have any cap space to trade and get anybody. Let's start there. Secondly, you're talking about a non-scheme fit with J.J. Watt. He doesn't fit into the offense that we run or the defense that we run. He certainly doesn't fit into the offense we run, even unless you want to convert him to tight end. I mean, every now and then he catches the ball. I'm sure that if we got him, somebody would want to convert him to something.
Safety.
Yeah, safety. There you go. Look, you're talking about a guy who is essentially the face of the Texans franchise and could go down in Texans history in a similar way to the way Joe Green goes down in Steelers history. It's that kind of legacy he has there. It's not an old franchise to begin with. So it's not going to happen for a variety of reasons. I understand that the Steelers fan base, our fan base, us included, just like all the other fan bases in the world, all think everyone should come here and just take whatever we can give them in order to play here because it's just so great to play here. And that I understand that mentality. It might even be true in Pittsburgh, but they're not going to do that. The players certainly aren't going to do that. They're about making their money, and of course they should be. And it's just not the way it works, man. It doesn't work this way. I just want to watch the Geico commercial again and just listen to that old lady say, this is not how it works. This is not how any of this works.
Man, it's not how any of it works. By the way, just some crazy stuff as you're talking that pops up on my screen. I got it's National Lobster Day, so I already mentioned lobster. So hey, let's go get some lobster. Yeah, why not? Yeah.
No. There's another one of those things. I refuse to pay for lobster because it's ridiculously expensive. It tastes like whatever you dip it in. And when I was scuba diving, I could catch it for free. So I'm not paying. That's ridiculous.
You do. You catch it with your bare hands. Mm-hmm. That'd be a heck of a
absolutely
feat.
Grab them behind their little clawy claws and you stick them in a bag.
Well, it's funny because John McClain, who covers the Houston Texans, so you're talking about catching and you're talking about crazy stuff. He says the Houston Texans have no interest in Antonio Brown. It was just a statement.
You know who has interest in Antonio Brown?
Antonio Brown.
Antonio Brown. That is the only human being in the world with interest in Antonio Brown at this point.
You know what? It's Friday. So it's like his name has to come up. And then the officiating video will come out, at like 4 or 5 o'clock later in the day. And so it's buried in the news and nobody gets to see all the awful calls they admit to making or try and prop up. They just totally ignore some of them. I'm sure there's none from the Steelers game that are going to be in the video, but it'll be interesting. I'll be sure to speak with everyone about that. But it looks like, we were harping on that about the officiating after the game, last game, and we got kind of, I don't know. Sometimes I just think maybe we went overboard, but I think we were vindicated by how many questions there were about it come presser time with Mike Tomlin and some of the other things that came out, the last couple of days. So it makes me feel better about, complaining. Anyways.
I'm not going to feel bad about it because, I may as well say it now before it starts. They stink. They stink. The refs stink.
You know who else stinks? The Jaguars and Dolphins. But that was Thursday Night Football, so a lot of people.
Man,
that was some tough sledding for your prime
facial
time.
Hair bowl.
The facial. Brett Kiesel made an appearance there as they were showing like the best beards of the NFL or whatever from some of the players. But hey, this also popped up. I think this is fun to share with everyone too as we get into some of these things. Ryan Fitzpatrick has a TD pass against the Jaguars with the Dolphins. And with the Bengals, the Bills, the Titans, and the Jets, he has extended his NFL record by throwing a TD pass against the Jaguars while playing for 5 different teams. No other quarterback has done it with more than 3. That's crazy. I would think Josh McCown's the only other guy that would ever compete on that same level. All Fitzpatrick has to do is go play for the Patriots as a backup before he retires. He will have played for everyone in the division. Yeah. So
I mean, you kind of have to give it to Mr. Fitzmagic. I mean, he has made a career on the least potential talent that you could possibly make a full career on, and not just a backup sitting around doing nothing. I mean, the guy's contributed. The guy has made plays for whoever he's been with. You got to give him credit. I don't know. It more amazes me, how do teams not know that he can do certain things at this point? Are they continuing to underestimate him just because, he's goofy looking and went to Harvard or whatever?
Goofy looking, but apparently super smart. So
yes, very smart.
And he once played for the Texans too. So
yes,
that was, speaking of the beard. This is the reason this was on my brain, by the way. It all comes full circle, people. We will talk about this game, but we're talking about the Texans. That was the Steelers had some tough go early in the season. That was a primetime game, a Sunday night game maybe with Fitzpatrick back then, and there was like 21 points scored in the last 2 minutes of the first half of that second quarter, and that was Fitzpatrick was part of it. I think Brett Kiesel had maybe an interception with his big mitts or something like that. Crazy. I remember that.
Yes, I do remember that. I was sitting in Houston at the time.
Oh, you were? Well, that game was in Pittsburgh.
I was in my hotel room watching the game, but I was working down in Houston, and I was sitting in my hotel room watching the game, annoying all of the people that were around me.
I was in the lower bowl, several rows from the field in that end zone where all the scoring took place. It was probably one of the most memorable games that I'd ever been to. The last time these two teams faced each other was on Christmas Day. This was back 2017. I don't even remember who was playing quarterback. Their team was terrible. It was 34-6. There was a nice DeAndre Hopkins TD. And that's about the only thing I remember from that. And Stephen Ridley got to play. So, that's how far back we're going. I don't know that this Houston Texans team is any more of a threat to the Steelers. I was going to bring up, I said I was going to mention Derek Watt. I'll probably mention it as part of the Steelers offense here against the Texans defense, since we've been talking about JJ. Some people were talking about whether Derek wants to get his hands on JJ and block him, and the brothers up against each other. That's the matchup, because you're not going to see TJ against JJ. Well, you shouldn't see TJ against JJ anyway. The Texans are next to last in run defense. They have given up just a ridiculous amount, and I have it here because I have my prediction for the week. I wasn't going to go to it yet. Well, I might as well. I just brought it up. I already put pen to paper on this. This is up on SteelCityUnderground.com. James Conner goes over 150 yards from scrimmage, and the reason I'm going with this is because they've relinquished 396 rushing yards, with only the Detroit Lions being worse than that. They made Clyde Edwards-Helaire, a rookie playing in his first game ever, look like he's a future first ballot Hall of Famer. That's good for fantasy people who took him high. 138 yards and a touchdown. He had 5.5 yards per carry. The Ravens last week, and they used their committee, right? They had 230 total yards. And this isn't all Lamar Jackson. This is Gus Edwards, averaged 7.3. Mark Ingram averaged 6.1. J.K. Dobbins had 2 runs, one big one, so he averaged 24. But he had a 44-yard one where he broke free. Mark Ingram broke free. Like, they couldn't even stop him. That was like a 4th and 1 or 4th and 2. They just hand the ball off to Mark Ingram, and he goes 30 yards down the field for a TD or whatever. Edwards and Ingram had runs of 22 and 30. And a lot of people are going to say, well, James Conner's 100-yard game last week was because of a big run. Well, Edwards-Helaire had a 27-yard long, and then he also had runs of 14 and 18 in that game. Gus Edwards also had additional runs of 14 and 15. That's a lot of big gains, a lot of big chunk plays. What could the Texans have done in the last week to have gotten any better to stop the run? Well, the Steelers Add David DeCastro back to this mix now. I just don't see, and if you do throw Derek Watt out there, I don't see any scenario here. The Steelers are going to run the ball. I don't know if this game will be a shootout. If you see that the Texans are weak at stopping the run, they may just impose their will. And then they start creeping up to stop it. It's going to be a field day. Ben's got too many guys that he can throw the ball to as it is. So I'm looking at Connor somewhere between 20 and 25 touches, 150 all-purpose yards. There's going to be some dump-offs. Maybe he'll score. I think Benny Snell will get a second chance. He'll get some redemption, but it's not going to be early on. I don't think there's going to be a share. Like I would say, if Benny Snell gets in there, maybe third quarter or something like that, depending on what the game script is like and how close this is. But this is pretty much where I'm at. I do not see, I think the Texans secondary is okay, but outside of J.J. Watt, they've got a couple other guys here that are, I'll give some respect to them. But overall, it's just one of these things where how are they going to stop the run? Like, the Steelers should be able to run all day on them. I don't care, what happened with Zach Banner. You get DeCastro back into that spot. Even when they had Kevin Dotson last week, they were getting some chunks here or there with James Conner, and that's against the Broncos. The Texans have just given up so much. And I know the Ravens run and do all these different things scheme-wise, but Kansas City, I look at them and I'm just like, the Steelers are in the same type of category. I look for a big, big running day, maybe less of Ben throwing the ball this Sunday.
Yeah, the Steelers are going to want to run the ball. And with David DeCastro coming back, I think that they're going to try and focus that. The problem is that they get impatient. So if they don't see success running the ball early, then Ben will start to get antsy and they'll start to try and do some things to throw it. So they have to be patient with the run because a lot of times, it takes a little time to get it all building. If they do it right away, great. Hey, it's fantastic. I don't think we should see 43 pass attempts this week. That's for sure. Not like last week, but again, it all depends on how the game plays out. I agree with what your premise is. I think they should focus on the run. They're going to try and focus on the run. They're going to feature the run and use the pass as a secondary option, which, for people who own Juju and Deontay and maybe Chase Claypool in fantasy, that will make them sad because there probably won't be as many opportunities there. But, if you've got James Conner or Benny Snell, hey, you might. And I agree. Benny Snell should get a chance to redeem himself. Young man, hold on to the football. Because if you don't, again, 3 games, 3 fumbles, you may not see much time the rest of the season. I'm just letting you know. You better make sure you hold on to the ball this time around. But I do think he'll get a chance. I think that they'll split the workload a little bit. And it's interesting because they have, the NFL put out top 10 backfields as of right now, and the Steelers come in at number 6.
But
I was a little surprised, but
I thought they were terrible at running the ball. That's all everyone was saying. But they have the only 2 100-yard runners in the whole entire league, and the weeks 1 and weeks 2. Yeah.
So, you kind of go, all right, it's weird. It doesn't look pretty. It hasn't so far anyway. We'll have to see how it looks now. But that was interesting. So we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Steelers looking to go 3-0 for the first time since they had the 2010 season when they appeared in the Super Bowl. So that you go 3-0, you're really starting off at a very good pace here. I think the Texans are going to be a little desperate at 0-2. They've been in this territory a lot with their back against the wall. We even mentioned them last year. We bring them up a lot of times when the Steelers have the slow starts. This is a game, for all intents and purposes, I think the Steelers should handle. Crowd or no crowd.
Yes.
The Texans, I just think they've been sloppy. I don't think they have it all together. I don't think they have the playmakers on offense. But just going back to the defensive side for a second, Whitney Merciless, Zach Cunningham, J.J. Watt, Benardrick McKinney. Okay, you get some guys there. But overall, man, I'm just not seeing. Aside from just J.J. Watt is J.J. Watt, right? Merciless, yes. Cunningham, these guys can make some plays. McKinney can make some plays. But you look at the corners, you got Bradley Roby, Lonnie Johnson Jr., Vernon Hargraves maybe seeing a little more well, he should be, because the Steelers are usually deploying 3 wide receivers at some point. You got Justin Reed and Eric Murray. Like I said, the secondary could be okay. We don't know what's going on with Juju Smith-Schuster. We're told he's being held out of practice, but more than likely not serious and will play on Sunday. But that's still something to keep an eye on. It looks like pretty much everyone else has been full participant. There's been some non-injury related type things. Deontay Johnson had returned to practice. DeCastro has been a full participant all week so far. Tyson Alualu has been a man possessed so far too. For all intents and purposes, it appears that the Steelers will be back to full strength here, Brian. And, Tyson Alualu is another name we don't mention a whole lot. Another guy that was...
Well, you don't. I mention his name a lot. We do. And we do a lot.
Yeah, but, his name doesn't come up entirely a lot. We're going to, with everybody giving credit to everybody, you know what? Everybody's on Dupree's jock all of a sudden. And, people already discussing whether or not you could sign him next year. Forget that jazz. Why are we thinking about next year? Let's think about winning the big one this year. And then let's let those things, take care of themselves. But this really does feel like all or nothing when I look at the Steelers roster. Because if they won a Super Bowl, some of these guys are going to fetch some decent contracts. You can't keep everybody. And I still think even if they didn't get all that way, it would still be that case. But I digress. This is week 3. You know what I mean? There's a lot of football to go, a lot of football to enjoy. I don't like to worry about those sort of things. It's just kind of like worrying about Derek Watt's snap totals or snap counts or, I don't think Chase Claypool necessarily. Now, if Juju doesn't play, that changes this altogether. But I don't know that Chase Claypool has the pop-off-the-page type deal this week as well. I don't really have, like we predicted last week he would score his first touchdown. Right. I don't know that big play's there on this secondary. If Juju plays, I think it'll be more run-oriented with the offense. I know we're going to switch over to the other side of the ball here, and that's probably where your bold prediction's coming in. You got an offensive one or a defensive one this week?
I'm gonna mock someone else's defensive one because it's not bold and it's stupid. I think my personal bold prediction will be a defensive one.
Oh, okay. Well, do you want to share that before or after we get into the Houston Texans offense?
Well, let's do it after we get into their offense.
Okay. So, anything scare you about this offense? Aside from Deshaun, I mean, even with Deshaun Watson, I'm sorry, Deshaun Watson, he's a baller. But
yes, he is.
He's forcing plays because he's on an island right now.
He's got nothing around him. And look, it's one thing if the Steelers didn't see quarterbacks of this type, right? But they do. So it's not that they're unfamiliar with how Deshaun Watson plays and the style of game he plays. They're going to be, I believe they'll be prepared for that and they'll be able to handle it. And he just, one guy can't win the game. He needs help, and he doesn't have much on this team, thanks to Mr. O'Brien and his wondrous offseason moves. So I'm not afraid of him. I may eat my words, but I'm not afraid of him.
Yeah, Duke Johnson back up to David Johnson, so that messes with me when you see just D Johnson everywhere. They have 2 of them. And, the Steelers are familiar with these guys. David Johnson is a guy that's trying to get back on track after, the last couple of years, after landing a big contract in Arizona, have not been kind. The Texans go and, move their mountains for this guy, but get rid of their biggest playmaker in DeAndre Hopkins, replace him with a fragile wide receiver in Brandon Cooks, who's been banged up. He shows up on the injury report as well as limited practice, as do the tackles, Laramie Tunsil and Titus Howard. And Titus Howard was a full participant. Laramie Tunsil is limited. you got to pray for the Texans here if Tunsil isn't able to go. And this is going to be some tough sledding with these guys too. And I should mention that JJ was on the injury report for a groin, but he practiced in full recently as well. So you take a look at the Houston's offense. We mentioned Deshaun Watson. He's been sacked 4 times in each of the last 2 games, so 8 times total so far this season. 1 TD and 1 pick against the Kansas City Chiefs. And then you go over and the same thing. He's been almost identical in all of these games, like 25 for 30-something, 270-ish yards, a TD and an interception, and in the 80s and 90s for his ratings. So it's one of those things where Deshaun Watson, for me, if that's all the more he does, he's not going to kill you necessarily, because I think another thing with the Texans, too, is that they found themselves in these shootouts where they look okay for maybe the first drive or two. Their game script is okay, and then it all falls apart, and they've been in kind of like a panic mode, and you see that happening. Watson has really been trying to force some plays. You've seen some of his receivers drop passes. You've seen some of his receivers fumble the ball. They turn the ball over. There hasn't necessarily been a big showing with David Johnson either. I mean, he went 11 for 77 against the Chiefs, got a couple balls out of the backfield. That was okay. Last week, the Ravens ate this team alive. It just wasn't even fair. It's not even fair to say that the Ravens, the start that they're off to, playing the Browns and the Texans to start. I mean, the Steelers play the Giants and Broncos. So I mean, I can't talk. Right. Especially with the quarterbacks that are playing in these games. At least, well, I'm not going to even give. But like you said, there's other mobile quarterbacks in the AFC North. The Steelers are used to seeing guys like Deshaun Watson. So where is anything going to come from? I know Brandon Cooks had 5 catches for 95 yards last week. A lot of this was garbage time stuff. As Akins is their one tight end, and Darren Fells the other. And I think Akins. Let me see. I had that up. Does he not lead the team in receiving? Jordan Atkins. I'm sorry. Yeah, he does. He had 7 catches for 55 yards last week, and these are the guys that they're relying on to be their playmakers, but these aren't the guys that pop off of the page when you're looking at the Texans offense. I'm missing somebody here. There's Kiki Kuti. Oh, there's Will Fuller too, and Will Fuller was basically non-existent. Was that last week? Yeah, he didn't catch a single pass. And this guy was supposed to be, they moved on from DeAndre Hopkins because Fuller, when healthy, had that connection with Watson and been a big play threat. I look at the Texans as an 0-2 team that they're going to have to come out here and pull out all the stops so they don't lose this game. If they do that against the Steelers defense, they may get eaten alive. You just got to hope that, the Steelers offense doesn't do anything stupid. There isn't turnovers and they keep this team in the game, because they may have a better chance at getting a victory than what the Denver Broncos did last week.
Yeah, the bottom line is this isn't a very good team. It's a team that's undermanned, underdepleted. It's a team where the strengths of the Steelers defense, meaning the front and the outside linebackers, are really primarily focused on one of the great weaknesses of the Texans' offense, which is their line. I expect that Dupree, that T.J. Watt, that Stephon Tuitt, that Tyson Alualu, that Cam Hayward are going to eat these guys' lunch and then turn around and kick them in their nutsack. I'm sorry. That's what I expect. They're gonna take your lunch money, steal your lunch, eat it, hurt you, and then just laugh. And that's what I expect. I don't know that it's going to be broken plays, and it's going to be mistakes, and it's going to be miscalculations in the secondary that are going to open up possible issues here. It may be some lack of discipline chasing around Deshaun Watson if they don't keep their lanes good and contain well. There's a potential for some big plays. But here's I was going to mock this, but now I have to admit that I didn't read the full prediction. And so I have to mock it less because I thought that our boy David Carr, who's, one of my favorite NFL analysts and who I like to repeatedly call an idiot.
He's so great.
He is so wonderful. I just love Big Dave.
Yes.
Anyway, his bold prediction was that the Steelers defense would show up big. Oh, shut up. But I didn't read the whole thing, so I'll smack myself in the head. There you go. He's saying this is the bold part. The Steelers record more sacks on Sunday than the Texans do points. Okay, now I will actually agree. That's pretty damn bold.
Ooh.
I was going to say I really think that they continue to, at the end of this game, they will continue to have a lead in sacks in the league, and this is a game where I expect they will have more sacks again, potentially even double digits.
You know what? I'm not as bold with the sack part, just because Watson is elusive. I'm thinking
he is. And Dupree is speed. It's speed, my friend. These guys are fast. He's not as fast. I'm just telling you, he ain't as fast. Plus, he's gotten beat up already.
Chiefs defense, respectable. Ravens defense, respectable. 4 sacks apiece. I kind of see the same area here. Steelers are -4 on the spread, over under 45 for this game. It's another one of these things where 45 points, the Steelers get the 30. So we're going to say if the Steelers had 30 on the nose and the over-under is 45, and you're going with just slightly over, that's at least 16 points to the Texans. So the Steelers would have to get 16 or 17 sacks, Brian. I know that Watson's a little mobile, and maybe they get one of these cheap statistical 1-yard type sacks that goes on the sheet. I would look for more turnovers, 2 or 3 turnovers forced, more than maybe even the sacks. I'm going to say more turnovers than sacks if I'm going to be bold. So 3-2, 4-3.
I'm not going with that. No, I think there'll be more sacks than turnovers, but I think there will be more turnovers than we have seen so far. I agree with that.
Yeah, Minka has been. We haven't been calling his name a whole lot. Devin Bush early last season, forcing a lot of stuff.
This has been posited out there in the intrawebs, not just by fanboys, but by some of the beat writers as well. You think Minka might be pressing because he hasn't had the big play in a while, and you wonder is he looking to make that splash? Because I'll tell you, I don't need that. What I need is the consistency, and whether or not he's gotten out of position trying to make a big play on an occasion in those first 2 games, I'd rather he was in the right place at the right time, but not out of place at the wrong time, if you know what I mean.
I don't know. I don't think it's a whole lot of that. I think some of that too is that he's definitely a film guy too, and you don't have a lot, especially when Jeff Driscoll comes in. You're kind of freelancing. There's not a lot of film. The tendency, the only tendency you're going to pick up, he picks up on tells. It's like poker. He's picking up on whether or not you get a big hand and all of a sudden you start flinching, your nose twitches or whatever else. These are the type of things that great players such as Minka Fitzpatrick pick up on. And I don't know that lack of film on Drew Luck to begin with, because he didn't play a whole lot last year anyways. Lack of film, no preseason this year. Jeff Driscoll coming in as a backup. The only tendencies you have are the tendencies within the game. Minka was right there when Joe Hayden had his pick. He's involved. So
yes.
I think it's unfair. I think the other thing unfair too, there was discussion as whether or not it was Devin Bush's fault on the Noah Fant touchdown or whatever. Can we please give credit? You're not going to have perfection. I know some of you, you play Madden online, then you get mad and disconnect from the game when it's not going your way. You're never going to have it perfect, ever. Even there in video game land. So you're playing against other professional football teams. I understand backup quarterbacks should or do stink. Sometimes things just happen. And the Steelers offense, when you turn the ball over and you're giving the field position and some of the other things, you're shooting yourself in the foot. So Ben, the only pick Ben's thrown is that one where he tried to force it to Juju. And that's the only one he's had so far through 2 games. You have Benny Snell fumbling the ball. You take care of the football against this team. I don't think it's going to be a huge problem. Ben can get rid of the ball. Like I said, I'm not as worried. They might get to him a couple times. It may happen, especially when you're dealing Chukwuemeka 4 playing like, is basically his 3rd game. DeCastro coming back. He may have to knock some rust off. They're going to have stuff of that nature. Guys are, not infallible here. I just don't see the Steelers. They just seem a little more finely tuned in September than what we're used to. Even though some of this football stinks, sucks, isn't as polished, they look much better than what they usually do at this time of the year. And I think they're just going to keep keep improving on that. And look out if they do, because this is, we saw some pretty bad football last year with some of the things that happened with this team. And it looks a heck of a lot better than it did last year. So I guess what I'm really getting to here is, when you're talking about certain things here, with placing blame on the defense and stuff like that, this stuff is going to just happen. I don't see the playmakers for the Texans that are going to absolutely, positively burn this secondary. I mean, Fuller could. They still have Kenny Stills. I didn't mention Kenny Stills. Randall Cobb, primarily a slot receiver type guy. The tight ends here or there, Deshaun Watson's looking for them. Darren Fells is another guy. He's usually a red zone type target. But there isn't, it's like a bunch of, jack of all trades, master of none. You don't have the DeAndre Hopkins that takes away from all of the rest of this. The Steelers will bottle up David Johnson. There is no doubt in my mind that the run game is going to be non-existent for the Texans. You force them to throw. You chase around Deshaun Watson. Anytime you got somebody on the run and they have to try and force and make plays, it's the same thing like Ben having that only pick that he's had. You start the freelance there, and then all of a sudden, disaster strikes. That's the way I see it. I think the Steelers cover the spread on this. I don't know about the 45, though. I'm still not convinced. And I guess I got to see what we think the Houston Texans are going to be capable of doing here. Because let me see, how many points have they had overall? I actually have to look and see what they scored, but a lot of this is kind of garbage too. Playing from behind, teams already having a big lead. Let's see, they put up 20. They got 20 on the Chiefs and 16 on the Ravens. So it may get close. You may be close to the over on this. It's going to be tight.
Well, this is the way I look at it. I got to address something because it's funny. My daughter had come up to me, I think 2 nights ago, and she said, with no preseason, do you think they look better than they did last year? And I said, do I honestly? I don't know. They're still a little rusty. They're still making some mistakes. The thing is, we now can look at this season with kind of rose-colored glasses because we're 2-0. So you flip that around. If they played the same level of ball but lost both games, we'd be like, they're rusty, they stink, they're terrible, they didn't get preseason. So do I think they actually look better than they did last year? Well, Ben makes them look better than they did last year, especially in game 2. They all looked terrible in the first game, but they were playing, a Patriots team that was pretty stocked at that point. And they got behind, and they had to play a game different than they wanted to play. I don't know. We will see. I do expect them to continue to improve, and I think that they will be a very dangerous team if they can stay healthy, knock on all things that are wooden, and get later into the season. They're going to be a very dangerous – yeah, your head, that would be a good one too. Yeah, you're right. A very dangerous team once they get completely in sync, because this is a team with a lot of weapons. I don't know. I think everybody talks about the Ravens defense and it's one of the top 10 defenses or whatever. I don't know. I'm not in that boat, right? And it's not me not wanting to give respect to the Ravens. I just don't see it yet. And so, you score 16 points on the Ravens that's great. I just don't know that they're going to score that many. So maybe David Carr's not completely loopy this week. Although I do think, it's not that hard to score 10, 11 points in these games. And 12 sacks would be a heck of a lot of sacks. So I don't think they're going to out sack the point total, but we'll see. I do think that the Steelers should be able to score. They should be able to score and move the ball consistently on the ground, mix in some throws. I feel like there's a good chance they put up 28 or in that range. I don't know that they're going to hit 30. The only reason I think they go over the 30 mark is if the defense scores some points or they allow the thing to get a little closer than it should be. But that's what I kind of look like, maybe 28-7, 28-8 or 9, something like that. I don't know about 8. Maybe that was a mistake. I just said 7, 8, or 9 points. Like that.
You know what's going to screw the pooch?
Safety in a football thing, whatever. I don't know.
What's going to screw the pooch is that the Texans had 13 fourth quarter points in Week 1 against the Chiefs. They had 6, just the 2 field goals against the Ravens last week. Those games, the Ravens game was a 49.5, and that hit the under. So the Ravens 33-16. So that was a 49. If you're thinking the Steelers can get to 30, I say take the over. It's going to be close. It always is. That's the reason why it's called gambling and sports betting. You know what I mean? And then, of course, with the Chiefs, the Chiefs hit 34 on this team too. So with both of these teams hitting 30 points, now you got to let me see. I think the Ravens. LJ Ford had scored that defensive touchdown, and that's what the big difference is. Will the Steelers have that big defining Devin Bush pick up a ball, run it into the end zone, Minka Fitzpatrick getting one of those highlight reel plays? That could very well happen. I think the Steelers are overdue for that, and that's something that's going to come. But I also believe this is going to be a very quick game. If the Steelers get the running game going, they can't stop the run like they haven't been able to the previous 2 weeks. They're going to chew up clock, control the game. Even this might be in the bag by 4 o'clock, where you even have time to just go and buy some groceries before the second set of games even start. Wouldn't
that be nice?
So you can get your grocery shopping in. But that's the way I'm looking at it. Before you start getting to some of the other games that are on the slate, I think the Steelers go to 3-0. And then you head into October, where you have the Titans, Eagles, Browns, and Ravens before a bye week. So they have a very, very good chance of pretty much running this table all the way up to the first game at Baltimore on October 25th, the way I'm looking at it already, because the Titans will be a tough type game. The Eagles are a mess right now. The Browns have not convinced me they are anything of a threat to this point. Oh, big deal. You beat the Bengals are working on – Bengals may be drafting Lawrence now. They're going to have the top pick. Who knows? They may have some draft collateral after trading the top pick. And they're going to be I don't know. They might be in there with the Jets. Who knows? So that team – Cincinnati, that is, also snake bitten with injuries, it seems, all the time as well. So it's going to be some interesting stuff. No fans at Heinz Field again. This is the thing that really kind of bothers me too with this, Brian, is that the Steelers are going to be mostly on the road as you get into December. And they're going to be playing at venues that already have fans when you get there. Cincinnati, Cleveland, Indianapolis will actually come to Heinz Field for the final home game. So you look at Buffalo, whether the state of New York allows anybody there. I don't know how the things are going up there. But what I'm getting at is your home field advantage is being kind of relinquished due to the whole COVID-19 things and the protocols. Next week, the Steelers, there'll be fans there in Tennessee. It'll be interesting to see how many people shell out the big bucks for the 6,000 or 7,000 tickets that are actually being sold, and the very few that are actually publicly available for anyone to purchase. So One more week of silence. I wish there was some crowd noise, because I think it would totally rock Houston even more. I think that would get into players like Deshaun Watson's head and everything like that. The fake crowd noise bothers me the most on TV, because it's like everybody celebrates. I love when they interject it on close plays or when there's a flag. I'm like, just pipe in me or you. We'll take care of it for you.
I did enjoy the fact that they fake booed Carson Wentz in Philadelphia. That, to me... I mean, I don't know if the guy who did it got fired. I don't know. I have no idea. But, that's just funny. Look, I would be agreeing with you 100% about the next set of games. Tennessee is the one I think is going to be a tough game. I agree with you there. Philly, because it's not in Philly, right? I'm right? It's not in Philly?
No, it's not in Philadelphia. That'll be a home game as well.
Yeah.
If it was in Philadelphia, just who cares, fans or not.
It's just terrible. They can't play in Philadelphia. They're cursed there. So yeah, I think that they have a good chance to get to that Ravens game undefeated. And there's an outside. I mean, look, we'll be Chiefs fans this week, right? Because the Ravens got to play the Chiefs. Hopefully the Ravens pick up a loss before then. So the Steelers could be the first place, not tied with anybody. Steelers, and we'll see how it goes. I'm looking at the schedule and thinking we're in pretty good shape, and it looks like we can get to the bye week with a very decent record, and then hopefully make some hay at the second half of the season when this team is really firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, and just looking at that'll be the Monday night game coming up, the Chiefs and the Ravens. Kudos to whoever put that one on the books, you know what I mean? As far as like a primetime matchup, Ravens are actually favored 3.5, over under 55.
Whoa!
Yeah, they're looking for the fireworks. I think they'll get it. Eagles and Bengals. The Eagles are actually favored by 4.5, 47.5 over under. Like, how does that game end up in anywhere more than the Texans and Steelers? They're either like really poo-pooing. I think it's like really the Steelers' opponents that are dragging the over-unders just a little lower. I mean, we're talking 2.5 points, but still. I had the Cleveland one here too. Cleveland was favored against the Washington football team by 7 points, with the same over and under of 45. So looking around the AFC North, who knows? This could be a correction game for the Eagles. I have no idea what to think about the Washington football team and the Browns. Browns fans.
Chase Young just needs to do us some favors in that Ravens game. That's all. Chase Young, you need to do some favors in that. I don't care about the Browns game. They don't matter to me. They don't matter to me. It's the couple weeks from now when they play the Ravens. I need Chase Young to be a force in that game. That's all, and a nasty, evil force that the Ravens are crying about for the next 6 months.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how everything kind of pans out. I know when the Browns won on Thursday Night Football against the Bengals, they were ready to have a parade for the team and hoist banners up and everything like that. So yeah,
when aren't they? When aren't they?
Usually about week 6. So just wait until we get there. So Brian, this one just hot off the press too. As we're doing this, Juju full participant with no injury status for the upcoming game. So all that talk about everything else with the wide receivers and maybe a little bit more of a snap count for Chase Claypool. Throw that out with the baby in the bathwater. Brian, thanks for joining me once again, my friend. And we'll talk about more. Maybe we'll make a segment. We'll just have a road rage segment for a couple minutes on every show because I could probably just do this every day. I'll just start a new channel.
We need one of those gifts. We need one of those gifts that say triggered. Because, man, that triggers me. You got it.
It really does. And I know, man, sometimes you have some pretty hefty commutes. And when I'm going to visit family, I got a nice little 4-hour drive one way, too. So I'll be dealing with plenty of madness and sadness on the highways myself. So, folks, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, my name's Joe. His name's Brian. And we encourage everyone out there to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.